Good morning to everybody. Lovely that you can join us. This is the second in our series on education. Next Friday in our education program, it'll be tertiary education. But today we're looking at what's going on in the primary and secondary school sector and how Enlighten education is involved there. And it's wonderful that we're able to have with us the two important people from Enlighten Education Trust. I'd like to introduce to you Magriet Peter. Magriet was born in Tulbagh and she went to school there before moving on to Stellenbosch University, got a Bachelor of Arts degree. She joined the Department of Foreign Affairs after graduation, and she trained as a diplomat on the African desk, working with the then previous homelands of Ciskei, Benda, Transkei, and Bophuthatswana. And she assisted with agricultural projects in Central Africa. She then got married and moved a new career, farming in the Eastern Cape, where she became very involved. That was in the Stutterheim district, and there she became involved with the Ferreiras and the Stutterheim Community Development Project. She ended up as director of the Stutterheim and Development Foundation, taking over as trust manager. And then in 2010, fortunately for us, she was headhunted by Henry Kuiper, who offered her the job at Enlighten Education Trust when the manager was retiring. And so we've been blessed with her presence ever since. Her passion is community development. So we are very fortunate to have her as our manager at Enlighten Education Trust. And we look forward to what she's going to tell us about the very valuable work they do in the Overstrand. And her sidekick, Rodney. Rodney was born in Bishopslavis, 1972, and he went to school there, both primary and high school. And then he went to the Paarl College of Education and the Songa College of Education. So he trained there as a teacher, became a project manager at Stellenbosch University, and developed his core study field, which is educational leadership and e-learning. He also studied pastoral studies at the Bible College and is an ordained pastor at the Church of God. Now, his work in the Western Cape Education Department, he taught for 11 years at Swartberg Primary School. Then he moved on to the Kanya Project and started working for the Western Cape Education Department, first in the Overberg District and then in the Metropole East District. And since 2016, he has been at the Enlighten Education Trust, and currently he's our project manager and does an absolutely superb work. We are very fortunate to have his services as project manager at Enlighten Education Trust. So Magriet and Rodney are now going to tell you all about Enlighten Education's activities. Welcome to both of you. We look forward to hearing what you've got to tell us.
Morning, everyone. It's very nice to tell you the story about Enlighten. Before I start the story, I would like to say that apart from community development, my passion is also education, which of course is part of community development. And I manage the Stutterheim Education Trust after the Stutterheim Development Foundation closed. And that was the most wonderful learning school for me. The Stutterheim Development Foundation in partnership with the Stutterheim Education Trust. I shall be brief in my introduction and will hand over to Rodney, who will be presenting a detailed presentation of our educational initiatives in the Overstrand. Since 2008, it has been a sheer pleasure to be part of and lead the Enlighten team. Every day coming into the office brings stories of joy, learning, and progress. Last week, I listened with much interest to Dr. Taylor's presentation, in which he set out the challenges in the education system so brilliantly. But at the same time, I was also very excited to see and to hear that research confirmed that with a focus on early learning, enriching teachers and support with a curriculum, focus on literacy and numeracy, parental and community involvement and training, we can and we are busy fixing education. All of these challenges are being addressed successfully by Enlighten, and all of these challenges have been addressed over the past 20 years. We all know, and I know it is not easy, that the process is slow, but some progress has been made. We are reducing inequality steadily, and some improvements are noticeable. And of course, as things are going ever so smoothly, the pandemic hit, and we are being faced with new challenges. Yes, we lost 60% of school time in 2020. Teachers are battling to cope with the extra burdens. Children are hungry, and the longer-term impact on education outcomes will be considerable. Inequality, including in education, is all around us. And yes, much still remains to be done. But there is also a positive story to tell. Based on Enlighten's work over almost 20 years across poorer and disadvantaged communities in the Overstrand, we find that parents are becoming more interested in their children's education. The rollout of ECD, that is early childhood development, has gathered pace generally, and communities are becoming more involved. Enlighten was established as a legal entity in 2002 by our founder and forward-thinking retired businessman, the late Henry Caper. And he got a powerful board of trustees, and they all addressed the urgent need for the intervention in every aspect of education, in partnership with the Overberg Education District at the time. Starting off with 3 projects in 7 schools in 2002, with a focus on leadership development and maths and literacy, Enlighten now actively works in 22 schools and 67 educare centres. I would like briefly just to touch on a few stats to say the Overstrand is Circuit 2 in the Overberg, Circuit 1 is Swellendam, and Circuit 3 is Caledon. I think Swellendam, I got the stats from the Department of Education in the Overberg in Caledon. The stats for Caledon, they've got 32 schools, and our circuit, which is Circuit 2, have got 25 schools, with 7 high schools and 21 primary schools. At present, and Rodney will talk about it in detail, we implement 15 educational initiatives in 22 schools. And apart from that, as part of one of our flagship projects, our Early Childhood Development Program, we work in 67 educare centres across the Overstrand. So you can hear that the size of our organisation has grown to today, where we also employ 30 staff members. Some are volunteers. We've got about 20 volunteers. They come and they go as they leave the area. Our staff component is made up of permanently employed staff members and temporary employed staff members. Looking back into the past, I would say that some of our major highlights have been the completion of our very own building and our training centre, funded by the Michael Javert Foundation. Then it was called the Sunshine Foundation, and some individuals. And those individuals included some of our trustees at the time. The second highlight for me personally was the affirmation by the Western Cape Education Department that our work is helpful, that it makes a difference, and that our work is enriching to teachers. And then the third one was that towards 2012, we were streamlining our interventions, and we made a major shift to the foundation phase. And where we're working now, and I've mentioned the 67 educares, we're working with babies up to grade 7 and some interventions in the secondary school. And today, our building with its beautiful mosaic wall has become a landmark in Hermanus and a beacon of hope to many. I would like to touch briefly on our governance, not because it's not important, it's all important. Our present board of trustees consists of retired educationists, one engineer, of course our treasurer and accountant, and then of course our very important active principals who keep us informed and on our toes. We meet every 2 months. I would also like to say the A team and our very powerful board now has helped the organization to steer a steady path during good times and the more challenging times, like financial difficulties, like funding concerns, and of course the social unrest, and lately and at present the pandemic. Our chairman, Mr. Alan Powell, has resigned this past week due to ill health after 14 years of demonstrating consistent, firm and sound leadership skills. And with integrity, empathy and genuine commitment, he has led us and inspired the Enlighten team to great heights. We wish him well and we will miss him dearly and will keep him informed. As you heard in last week's presentation, the bulk of the funding for education comes from the provincial level, with a much smaller amount provided by some municipalities. However, many aspects of what is required to educate the well-rounded child are under-resourced in the case of government funding. And as a result, parents must chip in or civil society must endeavour to fill the gaps. Today, Enlighten's funding comes from the private sector, comes from government, and comes from private individuals. Myself and some of the board members, and I've got an assistant, she was recently appointed, are actively involved in fundraising endeavours on, I can nearly say, a daily basis. Thankfully, we've managed to balance income and expenditure most years, but there are moments when prayers are being offered to fill a gap, just to ensure that one program or another involving our learners can take place. Our board and financial team can be commended for their stewardship. And I'm pleased to say that clean audits have become the norm in Enlighten. Or should I say, it is the norm in Enlighten. Lessons we've learned over the past 20 years, and I will read these out from my notes because I feel these are very important lessons for us to focus our organization less on activities and inputs and to focus more on our outputs and impact and our outcomes. To reinforce trust with schools, the community, with government and our donors. And of course, with the emphasis on the importance of communication. The importance of involving parents in supporting and monitoring their children. To stay connected with our immediate local community. For some of you who don't know, we are based in Zwelihle on the corner of Swartam and Angelie roads. And the safety of our building has been a concern, especially during the times of unrest. And Rodney and I then proceeded to organize a few community meetings with our immediate community next door to us to see if we can resolve the issue. And I'm happy and proud to say that the issue has been resolved, even though we've had to upgrade our beautiful building where it concerns the safety. Then the next lesson we've learned is that learners who take part in the arts and the music generally see an improvement in other subjects. Our long-term traditional donors, for instance, like Anglo-American Chairman's Fund, who has been with us for over 18 years, they've changed their policy. So we've had to make special do, and we've had to find new funders, which I can honestly say that we are busy finding, and we have found some. That they changed their policy, and in particular with Anglo, they've changed their policy towards the mining towns, where they are busy upgrading the towns and their education systems. Then the final lesson we've learned was the inward migration of poor families to the Overstrand absolutely pushes us to keep our strategies under review at all times and adapt our resource allocation to these changing communities. So we've learned to be on our toes. And to end off my introduction, and I'm happily handing over to Rodney, I just want to say that we will be having a milestone event next year. It will be our 20th year in education as a credible and a reliable NGO in Hermanus. And you've got to watch the space carefully, and we hope you will attend whatever we can offer you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. It was wonderful to talk to you. Thank you. Over to you, Rodney.
Good morning, everyone. I would love to base my presentation on the theme bridging the educational divide in the Overstrand, because that is our core intent with everything we deliver at Enlighten Education Trust. So whatever we do, all our plans and programs and processes, even straight to the evaluation and M&E processes built into our process, we start always with our vision, which is improve the quality of teaching and learning and life in the Overstrand, which is a very broad vision that we have for the peoples of our specific area. And our mission helps us a bit to keep focus, so it includes improving skills of teachers through appropriate courses and interventions in all disciplines where we can help. Once a year, we would ask school principals to identify any gaps where we can support. And then obviously we then plan towards that for the coming years. So another mission item is to stimulate and growth leadership skills, not only in teachers, but also in school management as well as learners. And then to improve the literacy and numeracy levels of all learners. And that's the bulk of our projects, tries to endeavor and to help in that regard. And then to increase the cultural capital of learners by providing access to various vital, sometimes expensive resources that cannot be paid or bought by parents. For instance, our arts and our music and those other peripheral educational toys and practices. And then one of our flagship programs, which is also a passion of mine, is training in e-learning, computer skills and robotics, including coding. So, and then last but not least that I want to mention in our mission statements is to assist foreign national learners to become fluent in English and Afrikaans and isiXhosa. As an introduction, Enlighten Education Trust aims to improve the quality of teaching and learning in the Overstrand within the context of all the educational arenas. Towns in the Overberg have many inequalities, as we know, and we endeavor to facilitate, to bring about quality and in education and support and give access to appropriate resources that are not always available to the marginalized communities. So we also provide support in schools and at our center as well. We have in-house training as well as project items delivered to the community's children. So these projects include a community and an educational toy library, as well as a community library with more than 7,000 members, including few adults as well. It's a hype of activity daily at Enlighten with regards to our library space. We have, as I've mentioned in the mission statement, we have an Afrikaans literacy project. I mean, it's just amazing to see these kids coming from different countries into South Africa, into Hermanus, can't speak a word, not even their parents in Afrikaans, and going through the cycle and the processes, they become fluent in reading, writing, and comprehension. That's an awesome project with us. And then also including in the projects is the e-learning computer center. Daily kids can come for free, have access to internet for the purpose of research and homework and online programs, as well as curriculum supported software that we have available with the CAMI software we use to support literacy and numeracy. Also, we have visual arts and pottery project. It's an amazing project to see these kids growing in potential entrepreneurial artists. And then one of our flagship programs in Hermanus, in the community of Hermanus, gladly support this project. Whenever we have opportunity to showcase, people always speak and the crowd speaks for themselves about the appreciation for the Hermanus Music Academy, Academy of Music with Enlighten. We also have the early childhood development, where, as Magriet said, we support 67 sites, educare sites, and then I'll speak about on that a bit more later, and then the remedial projects as well. So this is basically the breakup of where our people are working and where they are based and supporting. So that is basically, we clustered it in 6 or 7 strands, and that is how we try to support our community within these strands, like library, toy library, and literacy is packaged together, etc. And then we have a foundation phase and enrichment program, which is more or less the remedial work, e-learning projects, as well as the ECD project, which is quite a big project, which is a flagship program that's been running for most of the life of Enlighten Education Trust. So we work in a radius of around about 50 km, spreading from Pringle Bay to Gans Bay, and various projects in various towns being offered. On the top layer, you'll see the projects, and then in column 1 you will see all the schools where we support, and then we also support in-house on the second last layer. So you will see, for instance, a school like Bother River Primary, this number 2, we only have 1 project there, but a school like Hermanus Primary, we have 4 different projects running. So that's basically a breakdown of where we do what. And then this is a very interesting slide, because this tells us about how many learners and how many teachers are benefiting throughout our project cycle of 1 year. So our last cycle, which were 2020, it was 19,533 learners benefiting, not only learners, but learners and teachers benefiting. So for us, that's a growth irrespective the time that we're in. The schools are still opening up their hearts for us to support them, and we are grateful towards the educational sector that are willing to open up and to have us with them. That's just basically a project staff breakdown. Magriet spoke about the staff members, our board members, as well as our funders. Most of the funders would be project specific, but we are so grateful for these long-standing funders with us. Coming back to the projects, we have these 6 strands. We have, as you can see, we work from Monday to Fridays, and sometimes with regards to the accessibility of teachers, educators, and practitioners in the educare sector, we do our trainings on Saturday. Just to zoom briefly into per project or strand, so we have the ECD people. They are supporting the ECD sector with regards to the DST registration. So ECDs needs to be registered on a regular basis. So our team are very highly skilled and experienced practitioners, and also facilitators support so these 67 sites. So we have 3 facilitators and 1 person specifically working and supporting the DSD processes. So on behalf of the Department of Social Development, we support the ECD environment here in Overstrand, and then we stop here in the Greater Hermanus community. We don't work towards Stanford and Gansbaai. So Olo is our social auxiliary worker, and she helps us in that regard. With regard to this variety of support, one of it is in-house, but also training. We are now busy setting up our own, very own model classroom, and we will have this relationship with the local ECDs so that we can showcase best practice in our own center, bringing our practitioners into the center and show them through model lessons how things should happen in the classroom. Those are just photo evidence of how these kids are just enjoying themselves. The second project is the e-learning project to provide e-learning facility for learners, as I've said, Monday to Friday, and educators as well. And then including education professional development courses. We've designed lots and lots of educational courses for teachers so that they can also implement and have curriculum integration processes at their own schools in their own classes. But we also have a mobile unit, so we take laptops with the CAMI program into the class and become an extra resource for the teacher in the maths and the literacy classes. So we are honored to become part of the learning moment of kids in the classes. And the teachers normally says the learners are the best behaved on the days of their schedule with Enlighten. Those are just evidence. You will see on top left, you'll see a learner building a robot there with a WeDo, and then kids also playing in the middle. There's kids, bottom middle, you'll see kids busy with the perceptual development program in a grade 2 class. There's the middle photo is an evidence of kids in the grade 6 class for Waldorf, where we support maths in the class. So we're quite excited, and the kids are lit up and they just enjoy these integration moments. The third one is our music project. It's a very big project. We have 187 kids participating in this particular project. And it varies from individual tuition as well as group tuition, but also includes preparing kids for UNISA exams. We had outstanding results lately, like a young man called Cameron Pedro in piano. He scored 90% in his UNISA exams. Jasmine Branson on the piano, she received 84% distinction for UNISA grade 3 piano. So we also now have Jessie Solomons, who scored 96% in her first exam on the high school, Hermanus High School, the subject music, also a product of Hermanus Academy of Music, which is based in Enlighten Education Trust. So we're quite excited about this space, and there's a lot of things happening. We have a group in Bot River, that one project that we've identified with them as a school. So we had these children for the last many, I think almost 10 years. We've been developing their skill levels in marimba. And now they are actually a group of entrepreneurs moving around to various places to showcase their talents in this. And they're becoming a great hit in the market with regards to music. With regards to visual arts and crafts, we have Karen and Ashley there. And the basic intent of our project is to open the doors of creativity and to give children and young teens an all-round experience of various forms of art making, where they can learn to express themselves and individually also learn the language of art. It's amazing what these kids are doing. There's examples of kids. So we have 2 groupings, the primary group and then the high school group. These kids just love art and they are just growing, and things are going to happen with these kids with regards to entrepreneurial space of arts. This is one of the latest creations that they're busy doing. These are actually pictures of himself that they're busy drawing. It's amazing how these kids have just developed. And we are so grateful for our very esteemed facilitators working in this space. They are also now working in partnership with the Education Department, WCD, as well as DBE, which is the National Department. They're also building lessons for kids in the class. So during the lockdown, we used the opportunity of being locked in. All the projects were trained online from the office, how to set up online lessons for the various disciplines of our projects. And now we have a bouquet of hundreds and hundreds of online lessons available for teachers and learners, for parents as well, on our website. It's showcased there, and it's communicated with the WCD and DBE, and it's being used all over the country. So we're grateful towards our facilitators at Enlighten for creating and allowing themselves and opening up themselves for development whilst in lockdown. These are pictures on top where teachers are being trained by our esteemed project facilitators as well. The next project is our Afrikaans literacy program. We have Verity there, and this is where we learn Afrikaans. And these kids grade 1 and 2 and sometimes 3 as well as and 4, because the schools are asking for help, because some of these kids ending up reading and writing and communicating and comprehending better in Afrikaans than those mainstream Afrikaans learners in the school. So this is an amazing project, and we are so grateful towards the funders supporting this project. There's Verity busy doing a thing that she knows best. And we also now have an in-house support where kids also comes in and being supported by Verity on Thursdays. The library service, there's a growing need for isiXhosa books, but the library is hyperactivity, and we've now also grown the library into another additional space that we call the smart classroom, where kids are supported with homework, because they used to be supported in the library, but because of the growth in the need in that area, we now also have additional space where we can support kids with homework. And the parents, I mean, the feedback from parents is just great with regards to parents working late and Enlighten available and supporting. These are just examples of kids. And there's Almina, our librarian, on the left top. And that's a beautiful picture of a kid busy reading in the library on top on your right-hand side. The toy library, we've now increased our capacity in that space. We have a free play area where kids can come into the room and they can play. Play is a very important step towards acquiring skills for educational foundations. So the mobile libraries also visits education centers as well as schools with the library and with ECD people, and they would lend toys to schools and to ECDs on a 3-weekly basis as well. So we have an in-house toy library as well as a mobile unit going with Elmin with the library books to schools. There's examples, and there's the picture on the bottom right, the space where our in-house free play area is. The foundation phase enrichment program, these ladies, they support 3 schools, and they help where help is needed with regards to those early detectors where there's a real backlog with regards to the educational foundations of these kids. So teachers and schools would identify kids where there's a need for support with remedial work, and our 3 ladies, they support to improve the basic school readiness skills, literacy as well as numeracy in foundation phase. It's amazing work they are doing in developing these foundational skills that will help to excel learning. And there's examples of them doing their thing with motor skills, etc. So there's a few more examples for fine motor skills. And growing out of that project, we now have a new project called Toy Therapy. So this program consists of a variety of activities designed by experienced foundation phase teachers who identified gaps in the skills needed to cope with the work in foundation phase. We aim to improve these skills through structured play. So this is the different type of play than free play in the toy library. And there's examples of kids busy doing their thing. And then science chapter, we are fortunate as Enlighten to have a science chapter based here in Hermanus. And Almin, who is our librarian, is also supporting this particular project. We have 13 volunteers working in this space in the grade 2 class, as well as grade 3 learners as well. Basically, what this is all about is supporting reading. We are so fortunate. We were based in Lucania, but we could not proceed there anymore because of space. So we moved over to Waldorf, and the school quite happy, learners are happy, and the kids are being developed. We are quite happy with the process with our science chapter. This is basically the area that has been set up for them. And as you can see, the left-hand side top is all smiles, and the kids are enjoying reading. And there's our volunteers busy individually with the kids in supporting. And then we have a very new project with us. Unfortunately, we don't have the Junior Town Council with us anymore because the local government decided to have it in-house. So we decided to have our own life skills project. And this is where we take learners from grade 7 and grade 9 of Houston schools, as well as Mount Pleasant. And we give them opportunity to grow leadership skills as well as developing self-concept. And it's an amazing story. We take these kids into Stanford Camp, their Wortelgat, and we use the outside atmosphere and space. We stimulate them and we train them how to grow into a good self-concept individual. There's an example of our last camp. And during lockdown, it was tough to take all the other camps are now postponed until further notice, but we are excited to go on our next scheduled camps soon. As I've said, we had the Junior Town Council with us for many, many years, and unfortunately, local government, the Overstrand, decided to have it in-house, and we had an amazing journey with these kids. So it was high school leaders from all the high schools that we've been training in the various skill levels of leadership, etc., as well as involvement in community and supporting the local community. That's our projects, and that's our beautiful building that our trust manager spoke about. That's the entrance of our Enlighten Education building. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rodney. Thank you, Magriet. That was lovely. Thank you very much for outlining so very, very effectively what you do at the Enlighten Education Trust, something that really benefits our community. Thank you so much. Now let's have some questions, comments.
Fantastic, Letitia, and amazing people who are doing amazing stuff. I mean, our daughter teaches the grades as well too, and it's great to see, you know, what she does is sort of aligned with the people that you have in Enlightenment Trust and all the good work that's going on there. But it's not really related, but it is, Letitia, you mentioned training colleges. Do the training colleges still exist?
Well, Rodney was trained at one of the teacher training colleges that unfortunately with the new dispensation were closed down. Yeah. At the moment, teacher training is done at the universities only, but we hope that that will change. That's why this in-service training that the department and organizations like Enlighten can help with in-service training. No, sadly, the teacher training colleges were closed down.
Magriet, thank you very much for your introduction and the way you explained the whole of Enlighten Trust. Could you give us some idea of the magnitude of your expenditure and whether you are confident or whether you are experiencing difficulty in raising the income you require to meet the magnitude of your expenditure? I don't expect a detailed breakdown, but maybe in hundreds of thousands, perhaps.
With pleasure, Robin. Thank you. Robin, our budget for this year, for the present financial year, is just over 5 million that we are hoping to get in to fundraise. at this stage, we are going pretty well. But like I've mentioned in my presentation, like, it's consistent fundraising efforts, keeping in contact with funders. You build relationships with these people over many years, but it's also got to do with trust and integrity, as you can imagine. Yes, for many years we've had difficulties, Robin, but we've built up a very firm and loyal funding base. But it depends, like we were very fearful at the time the pandemic hit, but I was so utterly amazed and in awe of funding from all sorts of directions, and many from, well, quite a number of people also local who supported us with food parcels, which is not quite our line, even though we've started doing sandwiches for children because they are hungry. So Spa in town donates, at the Gateway, because it's so close to our building, they donate 5 loaves of bread every day, and we buy peanut butter and jam, and we give them sandwiches in the afternoon, and they are just so grateful for that. So Robin, yes, we're always looking for funding, and sometimes it's like, I can't even begin to tell you what it's like when a funder comes forward that we've never heard from, like it's recently happened. And we could sustain our early childhood development project possibly well into next year. So I hope I've answered your question, Robin.
So I gather that although, like all NGOs, you're always wondering how you're going to meet the budget over time. You have successfully raised the funds required to be going at the level at which you would like to operate, or which managerially you can operate.
Yes, Robin, like I've said, some years are better than other years. But for the past few years, we've managed to just make it. Some years we barely made it. And yes, but we've been fortunate, Robin, but we are working incredibly hard. And I am very grateful for the board, for the Enlighten board, who's agreed to give me an assistant. And my project manager sitting next to me is also involved in fundraising. And in particular, his passion is e-learning. So he will find the funds for his project. Yes, it's hard work, but yeah, so far, and we're trying to meet our budget. We can sometimes have a bit over. Like last year, we had a small surplus, so that is very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Magriet, I believe you also have a few overseas funders, is that correct?
That's correct, yes. Yes. And I was just mentioning this one funder. Well, I can mention them. It's the McFarland Trust. They're based in the US, but I think they've got strong ties to South Africa, possibly growing up in South Africa, but they've left many decades ago, or a number, I don't know how many ago, but they've just come forward. They sent out a scout to Enlighten at the beginning of the year. And this happened via a friend of a friend. And, that's the networking business of fundraising, and consistently so. And they've just agreed to fund our early childhood development project. They wanted to fund a project. So we said, well, we want to, establish this wonderful classroom now where we can have, a classroom of excellent practice in early childhood development, which Rodney mentioned or talked about. And it's going to be a fantastic intervention where all these practitioners that we're working with can come for proper PACA training, in a model classroom. So yes, we have got a few overseas funders and friends who are very good to us.
Could I just say that a few years ago, speaking as a member of the Board of Trustees, we were advising management that they were going to have to cut some project because we just didn't have the money for it. So it's wonderful when suddenly we do find funding, and it's always such a relief. But I mean, these people work so hard at getting funding. It is incredible how well they manage, but it's difficult. Well done.
I was just wondering how your ECD work at Enlighten aligns with the work done by the Rainbow Trust.
We do have a relationship with Rainbow Trust, but we have our own focuses. So we don't have a formal arrangement in terms of specific project initiatives, but we do have a relationship in terms of, let's make an example. They might be involved in a few ECDs and there's maybe an issue, and then we will manage it together. We have a good relationship with them. But remember, our core focus at this moment is, number one, we support DSD registration processes, which they don't do. Although we have 67 sites all over the Overstrand, we support 30 sites in terms of teacher professional development, as well as in-house support into this schools or ECD centers. We do have a relationship with them, but we are not having any cross-pollination when it comes to project support.
So effectively, you're complementary. You sort of feel
Yes, that's it, yes.
So it's a sort of reciprocal complementary activity. Oh, that's great. Thank you.
We try not to overlap what they are doing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Rodney, can you give us a few more details about the robotics?
This is an amazing project, and one of the unfairness of growing older, that's not me, in the space of e-learning that I've been involved ever since I've been a teacher. It's just amazing. You teach these kids 1, 2, and 3, and they outrun you to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So all of them are outgrowing us after exposing them to the skill levels, the foundational skill levels. We have 3 phases of our robotics. We have an entry level, and that's where we work with these orange boxes, which are called the WeDos. And then they grow towards where we expose them to the online systems for coding as well. So we have robotics, which is the WeDo as entry level. Then we grow into the other various Lego robotics, the NST kits, etc., and the Mindstorm. But for now, because we want to have synergy with the department and what is happening there, and their project rollout has started for coding as a subject in primary school already. So we are now rolling out coding more than only the robotics side of it. So it's quite amazing. Our kids are quite excelling in this regard. And we've also started now in a few schools rolling it out into the school with our facilitators. We're starting to build our capacity with regards to the coding clubs at various primary schools. So yes, that is in a nutshell. We have Mondays and Fridays, we have classes on schedule, and we have a long waiting list of parents, especially the homeschoolers, parents who would want their kids to come into the space. So we try not only to have technical skills, but also to involve life skills, because in many cases, kids have these expensive choices, but they cannot cope with all the other life skills that are important in the working environment. So we try to couple those two. And then we're rolling out now the Mobi. We're rolling out a few new kits that we're using, especially the Microsoft kits, the chips that we're training them into it. We've made an investment, thankful to a funder. So we're getting there, but the kits are amazing and we are excited. And now the department is talking to us in terms of how we can support and shadow schools in our area.
Give us an example of the things they physically build.
Like, for instance, the WeDo. The WeDo's program is designed in such a way where they can build from easy to expert level. They can build various things like a car, that they can build a train with movements, so that they can build automation into it, they can build Bluetooth connectivity to it, they can build a tractor that can lift stuff. We have our activity boards as well. Their skill levels grows into where they can compete with other teams as well. At this moment, we don't do competition, but it has been done in the past. So it's an activity board that you can buy once a year. They have a theme. Over a period of 9 months, you grow your skill levels into these various building opportunities, building structures for that particular theme. Let's make an example. You in the play park. So now you must move poles from this side to that side of the pole. You must cut trees or something like that with the robot. So those are all activities built with skill levels, and kids develop, and then ultimately it goes into a competition mode. That's what we do in-house, but we don't compete out against other teams at this moment. With regards to coding, microbits are being used. It's a very interesting space now, because the microbits train them now the fundamentals of coding. Before they start writing and designing codes, they now literally building these sequences in the with the help of a laptop and the microbit, which is actually just a chip of the computer. And they can do things like an alarm bell. They can do words that can flow, like, for instance, welcome to my restaurant or something. So they can build all those sequences with the help of the computer. So it's amazing things that is happening in that space. We're at a very interesting moment where our facilitators came back one afternoon and they said, Mr. Rodney, I just want to show you something. And they had each of their cars, it was Formula One cars, so that the kids designed, and they put a tablet at the back. Now they can drive and see it on their phone with the remote is their phone now. And they drive racing in the office. That was an example of these kids amazing well. Now, that's powerful.
Letitia, this is a bit tongue-in-cheek. I'm fascinated by the fact that we're now teaching Afrikaans to our foreign nationals. Is obviously just for interest. And I mean, I'm fascinated about that. I mean, have you tracked some of those kids? I mean, do they then become very fluent at isiXhosa and maybe English as well and Afrikaans, and then, effectively stay here and become, long-term South African citizens?
That is our intent. We are very aggressive when it comes to databases, keeping record of where is these kids. So ultimately, we have this idea of starting to bring in a university or two to help us with research, because we don't have the in-house capacity and time at this moment. But we would love to follow these kids. Hence, therefore, we keep record of what is happening in our each and every year space. Let's make an example. If I want to go back to a learner that has been in the grade 2 for FPP, which is our remedial support, Pauline, who is the coordinator there, she would tell me, Rodney, I have a kid. That kid is now in grade 9. In grade 7, they worked with that kid in grade 2. The kid could not do this and this and this, but that kid is now excelling in grade 7. I know where the kid is, and so we've challenged our teams to keep proper record in terms of who the kid is and who their parents are, because in the lockdown, we've needed to have access to parents as well, because we were training kids on the cell phones of the parents. We would do music lessons on the cell phone of the parent. So we do have proper record keeping with regards to each and every individual. And mind you, some of these kids, when they come in for Afrikaans, they don't go because they can now speak Afrikaans. They stay the whole journey of schooling with us, because they come later for maths in the high school. They come for telematics. They come for e-learning. So they stick with us, and they speak Afrikaans with Mr. Rodney. Hello, Meneer Rodney. They brag about their language that they've acquired. So we have those kids still with us.
Fantastic. Because where I'm going, you talk about having been out there 20 years. And I mean, so many of the successful, schools around this country and universities and around the world, it gets back to your alma mater. So, hopefully some of those youngsters are going to be top, career people, business men and ladies, and you want them back in the fold one day supporting you.
I do want to ask one quick question. Magriet, in the pre-COVID days, you used to have an annual music concert. Do you still plan to have that?
We're actually having a concert on the 20th of August. It's going to be in-house though, Gert, for the parents. We are involving parents more and more. Unfortunately, we cannot have a packed hall like we used to. We are doing it online. So we can let you know, Gert. We will let the forum know.
Yeah, that would be a great idea, Gert, and maybe, people who want to attend it online make a contribution to attend.
That is what I had in mind. Please let us know, and we'll distribute it at least to our U3A members.
We're also having another art exhibition. You know, we used to pack that hall of ours, and it was always a very joyful event. And we're having another exhibition, and we're going to be inviting, you know, like 20 or 30 people at a time. And that will be in November. So that is a huge highlight because the art is exceptional. And you cannot believe how creative these children are, as you can see. So we will let you know about that as well.
Fantastic.
Very important work. Wonderful that you two could come and join us. It is so exciting to know what you are able to do. And even during lockdown, with all the extra challenges it brought you, thank you so much. And thank you to everybody else. And just support the Enlighten Education Trust. They do superb work.